Junky, completely impractical motorcycles have a special place in dystopian sci-fi. So it's probably no coincidence that in September 1996, a year after the Judge Dredd movie came to cinemas, Games Workshop released their own Lawmaster-coded murder cycle. I am the law. 6 months later, in March 1997, in White Dwarf's Fast Attack Special, they gave us the Two Fat Ladies variant, the Attack Bike, released alongside the deadly Eldar Viper. This particular kit came out in 2000, but the components are pretty much exactly the same as the 1997 release. Everything is on its sprue, it even comes with a transfer sheet, and it also comes with a box of white metal components. Yes, this is a hybrid kit, one of those infamous kits. And I spent a leisurely hour or so just pruning everything off the sprues and giving all of the plastic components a good tidy up before assembly could begin. It's quite refreshing how just simple these kits are. The sprues are just not really very busy. Everything's in 2 dimensions. It's all flat. There's nothing particularly nifty going on with CAD designs or anything like the kind of thing that we're used to now. I used Tamiya cement to glue together the wheels. And once that was done, I attached the wheels to the main part of the bike. You'll notice here that there are no pegs or guiding lines or anything. You just have to put both halves of the bike together and hope for the best. Here goes. And after a bit of a squeeze, it's quite noticeable that not everything is perfect. There are quite a few little gaps. So I ended up getting stuck in with my Tamiya extra thin and the hobby knife. Hopefully this will smooth everything over and make it a lot less noticeable once I add paint. I then wrapped a rubber band around this early part of the assembly just to lock everything into place. And whilst that was drying, I got hold of all of the white metal components. Now, not only does this kit come with a heavy bolter, but it also comes with a multi-melter, for which this model is kind of famous, or infamous rather, in games of 2nd edition. It is basically an anti-tank delivery vehicle. But I would be using the heavy bolter variant. The sidecar went together fairly easily. The bike also comes with these accessories, including the driver's bolter in a leather holster. And the bike was dry now, so I took the rubber band off. And then attached the foot plate to the bottom of the bike. On the back of the bike goes a box of bits, probably a Codex Astarte, some field rations. And I also attached the holstered bolter. Very cool. I then threw caution to the wind and glued the sidecar onto the main bike. Now, I would need to be cautious about how much I glued the bike together at this point, because I didn't want to paint myself into a corner later on, but I did attach the control console and handlebars along with the armored plate and headlight. And the twin-linked bolters. I then took the driver off the sprue, gave him a good trim. Okay, you'll see here that if I just pop him onto the seat, there's a horrendous gap between his foot and the footrest. There's nothing you can really do about this without having to hack away the seat. You can see where I've done that on one of my regular bikes. And the driver sits nice and flush after that process. So I took my hobby knife and did likewise, basically just gouging away, carving chunks of plastic out of the seat and up to the fuel tank, and even a little bit of the engine block as well. I also had to trim the groin of the rider, but that was off camera. And now after doing that, the foot more or less touches the foot plate, so that's less egregious. I'm pretty happy with that. I drilled the barrels of the heavy bolter and the exhausts. Made a little guiding hole with my hobby knife in the twin-link bolters, and then switched out for a smaller drill bit and drilled out those barrels too. I attached the arms. I didn't actually glue them on here. You'll see why. I put the torso on top of the legs, added a dab of glue on where his arms would go. So I'm doing this just so that when I do actually come to put the rider on the bike, that everything lines up perfectly. These are all hard-won lessons from building loads of regular Space Marine bikes. And I also, again off camera, I had to take quite a big chunk out of this, the gunner's left pauldron so that he'd sit flush. But we're pretty much there. So I then stuck it all onto a bit of cardboard and took it outside for a prime of Chaos Black. Hey presto. Now the Chaos Black primer is quite shiny, so I put some Vallejo model color down and just painted the whole bike, just gave it a quick once over just to take that sheen off and give it a more dull black finish from which to start from. I then started with my old friend Mephiston Red and gave the whole bike a couple of thin coats. Now this is quite a laborious process because obviously I've given myself a hill to climb with the black undercoat, but I'm in no rush here, and I quite like laying down base coats. I find it quite calming. By the way, this does look very slow because I have my camera on the cinematic pan setting, so it's all slightly slower than I was actually painting, in case you're starting to fall asleep. And here goes the second coat. So we're heading towards a nice, even finish. I then made a start on the gunner. Mixing up equal parts Mephiston Red and Evil's Son Scarlet, I mixed up my first highlight. And I just went at the raised portions of the armor sections where light would catch. I'm not a big fan of edge highlight. I quite like these big volumetric shapes instead. Just hitting the most rounded portions where light would hit. I then did the same with a smaller bit of coverage of just straight Evil Son Scarlet. After doing the rider and the gunner, I moved on to the bike proper. With the red complete, I moved on to the metallic areas and gave all of the metal sections, like the exhausts and exposed bare metal, a coat of lead belcher, including the trim. I then went to work on the details of the heavy bolter. I used cold white to block in all of the areas that I was going to be painting yellow, so the helmet and the right knee pad of the crew. This is because I'm going to be painting them yellow, as these guys belong to the assault part of Tycho's third company. Before doing that, I painted the eye lenses Caliban green. And whilst I was there, I also did the various dials, readouts, monitors, and whatnots that are on the bike and the heavy bolter. I then mixed up some moot green into the Caliban green and added that into the corner of the eye lens. Now it's time for the yellow. I added contrast paint Iandan yellow onto those yellow sections. There we go. These guys are now certified assault marines. Except instead of jump packs, they've got a bike with a sidecar. I used Nuln oil to do a recess wash of all of the metal areas, just to give it a bit more grunginess. I also did the weapons and the rider's backpack. With the iron in yellow dry, I was ready to add the highlights on the yellow sections using Uriel yellow. Again, just like with the red, I was hitting the areas where light would catch. Then I added a little bit of Screaming Skull into the Uriel yellow, and again, just focused on a smaller area. I did this with thin coats, so did it several times over, each time just getting lighter and lighter and focusing on a smaller and smaller area, until finally I was pretty much just using plain Screaming Skull, just for little drops where the light was most intense. Now for the black. I mixed in some Dark Reaper into the Vallejo model black and hit the raised edges of their pauldrons and the top of this rider's backpack. And along the edges of the heavy bolter. I used contrast snakebite leather to add this brass effect onto the ammo feed. This is one of my favorite little tricks. So snakebite leather over lead belcher makes for this really nice brass effect, which is pretty good for exposed ammunition and that sort of thing. I then took lead belcher over the dry Nuln oil and just lifted this up a little bit. Using Fire Dragon Bright, I did an extreme highlight, just doing the sort of nuts and bolts and a little bit of panel lining here, just to make the overall effect of the red a little bit less flat. Then hit a few of the sharpest edges on the gunner and rider with Fire Dragon Bright as well. He's really starting to come together here. It was time for assembly, so I took the gunner off and popped him in position and glued the heavy bolter in place. He's ready to rock. I then stuck the lower half of the rider's body onto the bike, attached the backpack, and here we go, the moment of truth. I glued his torso onto his legs, lining up the hands with the handlebars, and there we go, just managed to gently press his waiting hands into the handlebars. Perfect. I finished up all the little details on the dials and readouts, and gave the rider's heads-up display just a little bit of a glow-up. Looking good. I added a bit of Agrax Earthshade to all of the recessed portions of the armor and panels, just to give the bike a bit more depth. Already it's starting to look much better. There we go. Time for some transfers. In White Dwarf issue 201, there's a very handy example of where all of the Blood Angel iconography goes on the bike. So using that, I started to attach the transfers. The army badge goes on the right leg. And this chapter symbol went on the front of the bike. Now, these transfers are really showing their age because it just disintegrated. So fortunately, I had quite a few spares. And another army badge on the bike itself. And after a few coats of microsol and some matte varnish, the attack bike was complete. Happy with this paint scheme, and it's a pretty good proof of concept that I can roll out for the 4 remaining bikes that I need to paint as part of this squadron. This is all in preparation for the next exciting battle report in which my Blood Angels are going to face off against James's Eldar forces. The inspiration for this comes from White Dwarf issue 207's battle report, Clash of Patrols. As ever, a massive thank you to all of my patrons, and a warm welcome to Canada Jim, Waterfall Fantastico, James Wiggins, Liam Parkinson, and John Roberts. Do let me know what you thought of the attack bike in the comments, and hopefully I'll see you in a few weeks' time for the Clash of Patrols. Thanks for watching, and happy hobbying. The